A mate can run from an alpha, but she cannot erase her scent. Yet Nora had. Alpha King Callan Voss stood frozen in the doorway of the royal chamber, staring at the white wedding dress abandoned across the floor. Midnight wind rushed through the open window, carrying snow over the dark stone and lifting the edge of the gown as if someone had passed beside it only seconds ago. Nora. No answer. Callan stepped inside. Every instinct sharpened. Nora's scent should have surrounded him here. Soft winter pear and cedar blossom. The fragrance his wolf had recognized the instant she crossed into Frostvale territory 7 days earlier. Instead, there was nothing. Not a fading trail. Not even the faint trace a wolf normally left behind for hours. His chest tightened as he reached for the unfinished mate bond between them. Nothing answered. For the first time in years, the Alpha King felt something dangerously close to fear. On the bed lay Nora's lunar ring. Beside it rested a single dark red drop against the white sheet. Callan picked up the ring. Cold metal pressed into his palm. Less than 4 hours earlier, Nora had stood beside him beneath the full moon while hundreds of northern wolves waited for their royal bond to be recognized. She had looked into his eyes and asked him one simple question. Do you believe me? He had wanted to say yes. His wolf had already known the answer. But Callan had spent years ruling Frostvale by one principle. Never decide before every fact was known. It had kept peace between rival packs. It had protected his territory from reckless judgments. Under Moon Council tradition, even a royal mate bond was not considered complete until the Alpha freely offered the mark and both wolves accepted it beneath the moon. So when fear swept through the wedding hall and evidence seemed to point toward Nora, Callan had done what a king always did. He waited. Until I know the truth, no mate mark will be given. He could still see the moment something changed in her face. Nora had not shouted. She had not begged. She had only looked at him as though the one place she had finally believed was safe had disappeared beneath her feet. Now she had disappeared. Instead, Callan closed his fingers around the ring. Seal the territory. Royal guards appeared at the doorway. Every northern trail. Every crossing within 20 miles. Ask the neighboring packs to watch their boundaries. Find her. Elder Bram hesitated behind them. Your Majesty, if Lady Nora's Black Moon mark truly is what the court fears, perhaps whatever awakened tonight took her beyond our reach. A warning growl moved through Callan before he could stop it. The room went still beneath his alpha presence. Do not call fear the truth. The words tasted bitter because hours earlier, he had failed to live by them himself. The guards left. Callan crossed to the open window and searched the snow below. No footprints. No disturbed trail. No scent. Nothing his wolf could follow. Then warmth touched his palm. He opened his hand. Nora's ring had begun to glow, not bright silver this time, but a pale moon-white shimmer pulsing like a distant heartbeat. Across the room, something answered. Beneath the window, a crescent appeared briefly in the untouched snow. Callan's breath stopped. His wolf pressed forward, listening beyond walls, beyond Frostvale, beyond everything ordinary senses could reach. For one impossible second, the empty mate bond moved. One faint pulse. Hers. Callan gripped the ring and whispered her name. Somewhere beyond the boundaries of his territory, something whispered back. 7 days earlier, Nora Whitmore crossed into Frostvale territory with one small suitcase at her feet and an old warning repeating in her mind. Never let an alpha see the mark. The royal carriage rolled between towering pines while late afternoon snow drifted across the road. Nora felt the territorial boundary before she saw the palace. Every wolf did. Hundreds of pack scents layered the air, but beneath them rested one presence stronger than the rest: cedar, frost, and wild mountain wind. Alpha. Her wolf stirred, then became strangely still. Recognition moved through Nora before reason could stop it. She pressed 2 fingers against the black crescent hidden beneath her collar. The mark had appeared when she was 13. Since then, people had given it names she never asked for. Dark Moon. Bad Blood. Curse. One healer had warned that bonding with an alpha could awaken whatever slept inside it. Nora had survived by staying unnoticed. Becoming the chosen bride of Alpha King Callan Voss made that impossible. Frostvale Palace appeared beyond the trees, pale stone rising against snow-covered mountains. Wolves patrolled the outer grounds, some in human form, others moving between the pines on 4 paws. When the carriage stopped, Nora expected servants to receive her. Instead, Callan waited at the bottom of the steps. He wore a charcoal coat, snow catching in his dark hair. His silver-gray eyes found her before the carriage door fully opened. Nora stepped onto Frostvale's soil. Her wolf lifted its head. Callan inhaled once. His expression barely changed, but she saw recognition there too. Scent recognition. Immediate. Unmistakable. Dangerous to hope for. Lady Whitmore. Your Majesty. Callan, he said. Nora blinked. When there is no court watching us, Callan is enough. That evening, she sat beside him in the firelit dining hall while northern nobles studied her with poorly hidden curiosity. Nora kept her shoulders straight and her hands quiet. Across the table, Lady Marlowe Greer wore the traditional silver of an unmated moon court noblewoman. Her smile was polite. Her scent was not. Nora reached for her water and accidentally brushed the rim of a second goblet. The nobleman beside her immediately pushed it away. Another glass. The familiar silence returned. Nora lowered her hand. Before the servant could move, Callan took the rejected goblet and drank from it. Conversation stopped. He returned it calmly. Continue dinner. Nora looked at him. He offered no speech about kindness. No royal declaration. He simply continued eating. Something inside her loosened. Later, as they walked beneath amber lanterns in the western corridor, Nora asked, "Do you always make decisions that quickly?" Callan glanced at her. "Almost never." That did not look difficult. Because whether you touched a cup was not something I needed to investigate. A faint smile touched Nora's mouth. Callan's expression softened, then grew thoughtful. A king who acts on instinct can hurt an entire pack. I learned young to know the truth before I choose a side. Nora understood why he considered that wisdom. She did not know yet how much those words would one day hurt her. They passed the entrance to the Moon Hall, where attendants were preparing for the wedding. Callan explained that under Moon Council tradition, their royal bond would remain unfinished until both wolves accepted the mate mark beneath the full moon. And until then, Nora asked. Nothing is owed, he said. Not obedience. Not a bond. Not even the wedding, if you change your mind. Nora studied him, surprised by the gentleness beneath his authority. That night, alone in her chamber, she touched the black crescent and wondered whether Frostvale might become the first place where she did not have to hide. Far below, Elder Gideon Hale stood inside the Moon Temple before an ancient basin of clear water. The surface began glowing without flame or touch. Gideon's face changed. He looked toward the palace above. Nora Whitmore, he whispered. In her chamber, the black crescent beneath Nora's fingertips developed a thin silver edge. By morning, the black crescent beneath Nora's collarbone had grown a thin silver border. She stood before the mirror, tracing the air above it without touching her skin. The mark did not hurt. Somehow, that frightened her more. Her wolf remained awake inside her, restless but not afraid, as though listening for something Nora could not hear. A knock came at the door. Lady Whitmore? The Alpha King is waiting in the eastern courtyard. Nora covered the mark and followed the guard downstairs. Fresh snow brightened Frostvale, and several young wolves trained near the pine line while shifted patrols moved along the edge of packed territory. Callan stood beside the stone path speaking with a guard. He sensed Nora before turning. The moment his silver-gray eyes met hers, the uneasiness inside her quieted. You did not sleep, he said. Is that an Alpha command or an observation? An observation. Good. I was beginning to wonder whether Frostvale Kings ordered people to rest. The corner of his mouth lifted. Only when I have sufficient evidence that they are tired. Nora laughed before she could stop herself. For a moment, she forgot the mark. Then Owen, one of the courtyard guards, stumbled near the gate. Nora reached him first, catching his arm. Owen. His face had gone pale. He sat heavily on a nearby bench, breathing slowly while another guard called for a healer. Nora released him. Whispers began almost immediately. I barely touched him. Callan looked directly at her. I saw. 2 words. Certain. Nora held on to them. By noon, certainty belonged only to them. The story spreading through Frostvale claimed the marked Omega had touched a healthy wolf and made him collapse. That afternoon, 3 horses became restless when Nora entered the royal stables. One stable hand quietly touched the moon charm at his neck. Nora pretended not to notice. By evening, the whispers followed her everywhere. She escaped to the moon fountain, an ancient pool where Frostvale wolves traditionally prayed before accepting a mate bond. Nora knelt beside the clear water. "If there is something wrong with me," she whispered, "show me before Callan pays for it." Darkness bloomed across the water. Nora jerked backward. A soft gasp sounded behind her. Lady Marlowe stood beneath the garden arch with two noble women. "The fountain has never done that," she said. Fear sharpened the women's sense. By dinner, the entire palace knew. Nora packed after midnight. One dress, one coat, the small suitcase she had brought to Frostvale. She reached the outer gate before Callan found her. "Open it," Nora told the guards. Nobody moved. Callan approached through falling snow. His alpha presence rolled across the courtyard, and the guards instinctively lowered their eyes. "Leave us." When they were alone, Nora tightened her grip on the suitcase. "You said nothing was owed before the mate mark. I am choosing to leave." Pain flickered across his face, but he did not block the gate. "Then I will not stop you. But tell me why." "A guard collapses after I touch him. Animals react to me. Sacred water turns dark when I pray." She swallowed. What if everyone was right? Callan stepped closer. Everyone once believed the northern packs could never share territory without destroying each other. Fear is not proof. What if staying kills you? His cedar and frost scent surrounded her, and her wolf leaned toward it instinctively. "If you are dangerous," Callan said quietly, "then let me decide what I am willing to risk." No one had ever spoken about Nora's mark and moved closer instead of farther away. Callan raised one hand slowly, leaving her every chance to refuse. When she remained still, his palm rested gently against her cheek. Her wolf quieted beneath his touch. He lowered his head and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. Warmth traveled through Nora's chest. Then the crescent beneath her collarbone flared with pale lunar light. She gasped and stepped back. Callan stared at the glow beneath the fabric. Deep inside Nora, her wolf did not retreat. Neither did his. Whatever had awakened between them, both wolves recognized it before either human understood what it meant. The full moon rose over Frostvale 3 nights later, turning the snow beyond the palace windows pale as pearl. Nora stood at the entrance of the moon hall in a simple white gown while hundreds of northern wolves waited beneath cedar beams and amber lanterns. She could smell their curiosity before she heard their whispers. Some were hopeful, others afraid. Her own wolf ignored them all. It had found Callan. He waited beside the moon altar in black ceremonial robes, his silver-gray eyes fixed on her. The moment Nora stepped into the hall, the unfinished bond between them warmed. One step, then another. For 10 years, she had entered crowded rooms expecting people to notice the mark she kept hidden. Tonight, for the first time, she wanted one wolf to see her before he saw anything else. When she reached the altar, Callan offered his hand. Nora placed hers in it. His thumb moved gently across her knuckles. "Still afraid?" he asked. "Yes." Callan's sense softened with something she had learned to recognize as honesty. "So am I." Nora almost smiled. Elder Gideon Hale stepped forward with the ceremonial silver cup. Under the full moon, 2 wolves come freely before their pack. By Moon Council tradition, no royal bond is complete through title, promise, or ceremony alone. The mark must be freely offered and freely accepted. Nora glanced at Callan. He had already explained this to her. Nothing was owed. Even now, she could walk away. Gideon continued. "If both hearts choose, let the moon witness what their wolves already know." Callan turned fully toward her. The pull between them strengthened. Nora's wolf rose to meet his, not with fear, but recognition. Then something struck the stone floor behind them. Elder Bram had collapsed beside the first row of seats. Voices erupted across the hall. Attendants moved quickly to help him while Gideon called for space. Bram was conscious, but pale, with a strange dark stain at the corner of his mouth. "Poison," someone whispered. The word moved through the gathered wolves faster than scent. Nora felt Callan release her hand as he stepped toward Bram. The loss of contact was small. The emptiness it left was not. Moments later, a servant hurried into the hall carrying a glass vial wrapped in white cloth. "Your Majesty, this was found in Lady Whitmore's chamber." Nora stared at it. "That is not mine." Lady Marlowe's voice came from among the nobles. First the guard, then the moon fountain. Now this. Fear sharpened the air. Nora could smell it everywhere. Her wolf drew closer to her heart. "Enough." Callan's alpha presence swept through the hall, and every voice stopped. He looked at Nora. She knew the man before her now. Callan did not make reckless judgments. He waited for facts. He called it responsibility. Until this moment, Nora had admired him for it. Callan. Her voice was quiet. He came closer. I will find out what happened. Nora searched his face. That is not what I asked. The hall disappeared from her awareness. There was only the man who had drunk from a cup others feared she had touched. The man who had told her fear was not proof. Do you believe me? Callan's wolf pressed toward hers through the unfinished bond. She felt it. Instinct already choosing. But Callan looked toward Bram, then the vial, then back at Nora. His greatest strength as a king became hesitation in the one moment she needed certainty. Until I know the truth, he said carefully, no mate mark will be given. Nora became very still. Callan immediately reached toward her. That does not mean I believe you harmed him. She stepped beyond his touch. It means you are leaving room to believe I did. Nora, give me time. She looked around the hall. Hundreds of wolves were watching the cursed Omega become a question again. Her fingers moved to the silver Luna ring Callan had given her. Slowly, she removed it. His scent changed instantly, and the bond between them tightened with alarm. Nora. She placed the ring in his palm. Her eyes remained dry. You told me nothing was owed before the mark. Callan stared at the ring. I remember. Then I owe you no waiting either. She closed his fingers around it. Good night, Callan. Nora turned from the moon altar and walked through the silent pack alone. Behind her, Callan did not command her to stop. That was the freedom he had promised her. For the first time, it felt like losing her. Nora did not return to her chamber until the wedding bells had gone silent. She closed the door behind her and stood there for several seconds, still wearing the white gown she had expected to become Callan's Luna in. Her wolf had withdrawn so deeply that Nora could barely feel her. That frightened her more than the whispers in the moon hall. Callan had not rejected her. He had done something quieter. He had left a space where doubt could live. Nora changed out of the wedding gown, folded it across the chair, and pulled on a warm dress, winter boots, and her heavy cloak. She told herself she only needed air. Then the black crescent beneath her collarbone began to burn. Nora caught the edge of the dresser. Pale light traced the mark, but beneath it moved something darker, like a shadow trapped under ice. Her wolf suddenly rose with a warning so strong that Nora turned toward the northern window. Something beyond Frostvale was calling her. Not a voice. An instinct. Ancient and cold. Nora slipped from the palace and followed it into Moonwood. The moment she crossed beyond the familiar patrol routes, the sense of Frostvale weakened. Pine and snow replaced hearth smoke and pack markers. Still, one scent remained with her. Callan. Cedar, frost, mountain wind. Their unfinished bond stretched between them like a fragile thread. Nora hated how much comfort she found in it after what had happened. Nearly 2 miles into the forest, she reached a clearing hidden between ancient pines. A ruined moon shrine stood beneath the falling snow, its stone doorway covered in faded crescent symbols. Nora stepped closer. The darkness beneath her mark moved. At the same instant, the mate bond awakened. Callan's presence rushed through her senses from miles away. She felt his regret, his restless wolf, the painful emptiness left by the ring in his hand. Then Nora felt something else. A cold current sliding through the bond toward him. Her breath stopped. No. She backed away from the shrine. The darkness followed the connection between them. Whatever lived inside the mark was not trying to escape Nora. It was trying to reach Callan. Footsteps hurried through the snow behind her. Elder Gideon emerged from between the trees, breathing hard. Nora remembered seeing him at the ceremony, but now there was fear in his scent. I saw the moon basin change again, he said. I followed its pull here. Nora pressed a hand over the glowing crescent. Tell me what is happening. Gideon studied the mark. I do not know everything yet, but I know the shrine awakened when your bond with Callan strengthened. Will this hurt him? Gideon's hesitation was enough. Nora's stomach tightened. Tell me, if that darkness crosses the bond before the next moonrise, his wolf may not survive it. Nora looked back toward Frostvale, though the palace was hidden beyond miles of forest. Hours earlier, she had wanted Callan to understand what his hesitation had cost her. Now that hurt suddenly seemed small beside the thought of losing him. How do I stop it? Gideon turned toward the shrine. There is an old moon council rite. Before a mate bond is completed, One wolf may surrender her scent to the moon seal and silence the connection. No alpha can track what the moon itself has hidden. For how long? I do not know. Nora's eyes filled. Will Callan live? Yes. Then do it. Gideon stared at her. Nora, he may believe you left him. Once your scent disappears, even his wolf will not know where you are. Nora thought of the goblet Callan had lifted without hesitation, his hand against her cheek. The way he had allowed doubt between them beneath the full moon. She was still hurt. She still loved him. Both truths could exist at once. I wanted him to trust me, she whispered. I still want him alive more. The ancient doorway opened, releasing a pale lunar glow across the snow. Nora looked once toward Frostvale. If he needs to believe I abandoned him, let him. She stepped inside. Just let him live. The doorway began to close. Callan's scent vanished first, then the pull of Frostvale territory, then the fragile warmth of their unfinished bond. Nora closed her eyes as the world became impossibly quiet. Somewhere beyond the shrine, older than Pack Law and older than any Alpha throne, a woman's voice whispered her name. Nora. For 3 days, Callan's wolf refused to settle. It paced beneath his skin whenever darkness fell over Frostvale, searching for the presence that should have been waiting at the other end of their unfinished bond. There was nothing. No winter pear. No cedar blossom. No instinctive pull through the northern woods. Nora had disappeared so completely that even the animal inside him could not find her. Callan searched anyway. He crossed the northern boundary before sunrise, followed old trails through miles of snow-covered pine, and asked neighboring packs to watch their territory for an unfamiliar omega. Each evening he returned with the same answer. No one had seen her. Nora's chamber remained almost exactly as she had left it. Her suitcase stood beside the wardrobe. Her white wedding gown rested across a chair. She had taken only winter clothes and her cloak. Callan touched the fabric once and remembered her standing beneath the moon hall asking him to believe her. His wolf turned restless again. I should have said yes, he whispered. By the 4th morning, the lies surrounding Nora had begun collapsing without requiring much effort from him. Owen admitted he had felt sick before Nora ever touched him. A healer identified shadowroot in the moon fountain, proving someone had deliberately darkened the water. The vial from Nora's chamber carried the same bitter scent. Callan needed no more. Those details mattered, but they no longer mattered most. Nora had told him the truth before he possessed proof, and he had made her wait outside his trust until evidence gave him permission to believe her. That was the wound he could not excuse. Near sunset, he returned to the northern edge of Frostvale, carrying Nora's lunar ring. The pale stone warmed as he approached the territory boundary. Callan stopped. His senses sharpened. For half a heartbeat, a familiar scent drifted between the pines. Winter pear. Cedar blossom. Nora. His entire body turned toward it before thought could follow. Nora. The scent disappeared. Callan stepped into the forest. The ring warmed again farther north. He followed. Sometimes there was only snow and wind. Sometimes his instincts caught the faintest impression of her, too brief to track normally, but enough to keep him moving. Nearly 2 miles beyond the regular patrol routes, the familiar scent of Frostvale territory faded. His wolf became cautious. This ground belonged to something older than any pack marker. Beneath an ancient pine, Callan found a narrow thread of fabric caught against the bark. He recognized the dark wool of Nora's cloak. Beside it, one small stain marked the snow. He crouched and reached toward it. The broken connection inside his chest moved. Once, faintly, his breath caught. Nora was alive. Callan rose and followed that impossible pulse deeper into Moonwood. Ancient stones appeared between the trees. Crescent carvings glimmered beneath frost, surrounding a ruined shrine hidden from every ordinary trail. Elder Gideon Hale stood before its sealed entrance. Callan stopped several feet away. You knew she came here. Gideon faced him. I knew the moon basin led her here. I did not know what the shrine would ask of her. Callan's hand closed around the ring. Where is she? Beyond a seal no Alpha command can open. His first instinct was to push forward, to use the authority that had opened every gate in Frostvale since the day he became king. Then he remembered Nora at the wedding. She had not needed his authority. She had needed him. Callan looked at the ancient doorway. Then tell me how to reach her without commanding anything. Gideon's expression changed. That question may matter more than your crown. Callan placed Nora's ring against the stone. Moon-pale radiance traveled through the carved crescents. Something inside his chest answered with another weak pulse. Hers. He pressed his palm against the doorway. Nora, I am sorry. The stone remained closed. Then the forest became unnaturally still. A woman's voice, ancient and gentle, moved through the shrine. You have found the woman you doubted, Alpha King. Now you must learn why she chose to disappear. The voice did not echo through the shrine. Callan felt it inside his chest, ancient and calm, reaching somewhere no Alpha command had ever touched. Moon-pale radiance spread across the sealed doorway until the forest around him dissolved. Gideon vanished. The snow disappeared beneath Callan's feet. Then he saw Nora. She was 13 again, standing beneath a winter moon while members of her childhood pack stared at the black crescent newly formed beneath her collarbone. Callan heard the words that had followed her for 10 years. Dangerous. Dark-marked. Unwanted. He watched young Nora lower her eyes and learn, little by little, how to make herself smaller around frightened people. The vision changed. Nora was older, kneeling beside a trembling child. She took the girl's hand, and the child's fear eased. At the same moment, a faint shadow moved into the crescent on Nora's skin. Another memory appeared. Nora calming a frightened wolf after a difficult shift. Again, darkness entered the mark. Callan stared. It was never hurting them. The unseen woman answered. No. Frost veil appeared around him. Callan saw himself on the afternoon Nora first crossed his territory. But now he saw what ordinary eyes could not. A dark haze clung to his wolf, buried so deeply inside him that no healer had recognized it. He remembered the exhaustion after certain full moons. The anger he sometimes fought without understanding why. Then Nora stepped from the carriage. Her scent reached him. Their wolves recognized each other. The black crescent awakened. A strand of darkness left Callan and disappeared into Nora's mark. His breath caught. She was taking it from me. She was carrying what your wolf could no longer carry alone. The memories moved faster. The goblet at dinner. Their walk beneath the amber lanterns. His hand against her cheek. The quiet kiss against her forehead. Each moment of trust strengthened their connection. Each moment drew more of the hidden corruption away from him and into her. The mark everyone called a curse was something else entirely. A moon seal. A rare gift carried through an ancient Omega bloodline. Created not to spread darkness, but to contain it. Then Callan saw the wedding night. Nora stood inside this same shrine, tears bright in her gray eyes as Gideon explained what would happen if she returned to Frost Vale before the darkness was contained. Through their unfinished bond, the corruption had found a path back toward Callan. Nora could preserve herself and risk his wolf, or surrender her scent to the seal and disappear beyond the reach of every pack instinct. She asked only one question. Will he live? Callan closed his eyes. The vision continued. Yes, Gideon told her. Nora looked toward Frostvale. Hurt crossed her face. For one raw moment, anger followed it. Part of me wants him to know what it feels like to lose someone he chose not to trust, she whispered. Then her expression softened with grief. But I do not want him to die for hurting me. Callan could barely breathe. Nora stepped toward the seal. Let him believe I left. Just keep him alive. The vision shifted one final time. Lunar radiance surrounded her as she whispered, Take me instead. The ancient voice answered. Then one day he must understand what your love cost. Everything disappeared. Callan found himself kneeling in the snow before the sealed doorway, Nora's ring held against his palm. He understood now why the ring had guided him, why her scent had vanished, why his own wolf had grown calmer while the darkness inside Nora had grown stronger. She had not brought a curse into Frostvale. She had carried his away. Callan bowed his head. She thought I would hate her. She knew your doubt, the moon goddess replied. She did not yet know what you would become after losing her. A warmth stirred beneath Callan's ribs. Not the restless pressure that had haunted him for days. Something softer. One distant heartbeat traveled through the broken connection. Nora, alive, waiting somewhere beyond the stone. Callan stood. Tell me how to bring her back. Light gathered across the doorway and moved toward the crown upon his head. A king cannot enter where sacrifice was freely given. Callan understood. Slowly, he removed the crown and placed it in the snow. Then he looked at the sealed doorway as a man who had finally learned that love could not be ruled. Then I will not enter as a king. The crown rested in the snow behind Callan, but the sealed doorway did not open. He stood before it without moving, Nora's ring warm in his palm. Gideon stepped closer, stopping outside the ancient crescent carved into the ground. "The seal does not recognize rank," he said. "It recognizes what is freely given." Callan kept his gaze on the stone. "Then let it hear me." "Not yet." Gideon's voice remained gentle. "You need to understand what entering means. You cannot use pack law to call Nora back. You cannot invoke the royal bond. You cannot claim her because your wolf recognized hers. If she returns, the choice must still belong to her." Callan looked at the ring. Days earlier, those words might have felt like restrictions. Now they sounded like the simplest truth he had ever heard. "I do not want obedience from her." The pale carvings brightened slightly. "I want her alive." Hoofbeats sounded far behind them, but Callan did not turn. Royal guards had arrived at the edge of Moonwood with news from Frostvale. Gideon listened as one guard approached. "Your Majesty, Lady Marlowe has admitted the vial was planted." The servants confirmed her attendant entered Lady Nora's chamber before the ceremony. She also ordered the shadow root placed in the fountain. Callan closed his eyes briefly. There it was. The truth he had insisted on waiting for. It felt worthless now. And Owen, the healer, confirmed his illness began before Lady Nora touched him. Callan nodded once. "Return Lady Marlowe to Frostvale under guard. She will answer before the Moon Council and the pack she deceived. Every accusation against Nora will be withdrawn publicly." The guard bowed and left. Callan turned back to the shrine. He would not allow Nora's name to remain stained by a lie, but justice could wait until she was safe. The moon goddess spoke again. "Truth has cleared her name. It has not repaired what broke between you." "I know." "Then what do you offer?" Callan placed Nora's ring against the crescent on the doorway. "Nora, if you can hear me, I was wrong." His voice carried through the winter air. "I spent years believing that waiting for proof made me fair. Maybe it made me a better king. That night, it made me fail the woman who trusted me." Something faint moved beneath his ribs. Callan continued. "You do not owe me forgiveness. You do not owe me a mate mark. You do not owe my wolf anything simply because it recognized yours." The stone warmed beneath his hand. A distant heartbeat answered. His breath caught. "Come back because you choose to. If you never marry me, come back. If you never wear this ring, come back. If Frostvale no longer feels like home, I will help you find somewhere that does." A narrow line of white radiance appeared through the center of the doorway. Nora's scent reached him. Winter pear. Cedar blossom. Faint, but real. Every instinct in Callan wanted to move toward it. He remained where he was, waiting. Gideon stared at the opening seal. There is one final boundary. Callan remembered the Moon Council tradition explained before their wedding. Until the mate mark was freely exchanged, the royal bond remained incomplete. An alpha king who crossed a moon seal for an unbonded omega would do so without the protection of crown or council. His claim to their recognition could be challenged. Callan almost smiled at how enormous that consequence would have seemed 1 week ago. He removed the royal signet from his hand and placed it beside the crown. Then they may challenge it. The doorway opened wider. Beyond it, Nora lay surrounded by pale moonlight, the dark crescent visible beneath her collarbone. Her eyes were closed, but their fragile connection gave one unmistakable pulse. Recognition. Callan stepped toward her without crown, signet, command, or claim. For the first time since becoming Alpha King, he entered a place where power could give him nothing. He went anyway. Callan reached Nora as the pale light around her began to fade. He dropped to his knees beside her, but stopped before touching her. Every instinct had driven him through Frostvale and into Moonwood demanding one thing: find his mate. Now that she was inches away, instinct was no longer enough. Nora. Her eyelashes moved. The dark crescent beneath her collarbone flickered, its edges turning moon-white. Callan opened his hand and placed the Luna ring on the stone beside her. "I brought this back. You decide whether you ever wear it again." Nora slowly opened her eyes. Gray met silver. Her gaze moved past him toward the open shrine, where his crown and royal signet remained outside in the snow. "You left them behind." Her voice was faint but clear. "They could not help me reach you." Nora pushed herself upright. Callan offered his hand, then stopped halfway, leaving the choice between them. She noticed. "You called me your mate. My instincts know what you are to me." Callan lowered his hand. "But love is not permission to claim you. Hurt remained in Nora's eyes. I was ready to become your Luna when nobody else believed me. Callan held her gaze. I know. When I needed you to choose me, you chose certainty. Yes. He did not defend himself. I cannot undo that night. I can only become someone who does not ask you to prove you deserve his trust. For a moment, Nora said nothing. Then the mark beneath her collarbone brightened. The darkness within it lifted like mist beneath morning sun. At the same time, the heaviness that had followed Callan for years disappeared. His wolf became calm, not triumphant, grateful. Nora drew a surprised breath as the black crescent transformed into a luminous pale moon against her fair skin. Gideon stood at the doorway, wonder softening his face. A moon seal, he whispered. It was never a curse. Tears filled Nora's eyes. For 10 years, she had hidden the mark, apologized for it, and watched others step away because of it. Now she looked down at it without covering herself. When Nora and Callan emerged from the shrine, royal guards and Moon Council elders waited beneath the pines. Lady Marlowe stood among them under escort. For once, she could not hide behind a polite smile. The senior council elder stepped forward. Nora Whitmore, the accusations against you have been formally withdrawn. Lady Marlowe has confessed to planting false evidence and corrupting the Moon Fountain. Before representatives of the Northern Pacts, her place in the Moon Court is revoked, and she is forbidden from returning to Frostvale territory without council permission. Marlowe lowered her head. Nora watched her quietly. She felt no satisfaction in humiliation, only relief that the lie had finally been corrected where it had first been allowed to grow, in public. Callan turned toward the gathered wolves. You feared Nora because you did not understand her. I doubted her because I believed caution made me fair. She deserved better from all of us, especially from me. He did not ask Nora to stand beside him while he spoke. He did not use her forgiveness as proof of his redemption. When the elders lowered their heads to her, Nora accepted their acknowledgement without lowering hers. Callan walked to the crown resting in the snow, but left it there. Instead, he returned to Nora and offered his hand. Home. Nora looked toward Frostvale in the distance. She thought of the palace, the Moon Hall, and the question Callan had failed to answer. Part of her still wanted him to understand that some wounds needed more than an apology. Not yet. Callan nodded. Then wherever you want. A small smile touched her face. Walk with me. Nora placed her hand in his. Their connection warmed, gentle and unforced. Above Moonwood, the clouds opened, washing the pines in moonlight. Every wolf within Frostvale territory felt the quiet change move through the pack bond. The Omega they had feared had carried their Alpha King's darkness and asked for nothing in return. Nora and Callan walked. Beneath the trees, neither ahead nor behind. Forgiveness had not arrived all at once. Love had not erased what happened. But Callan finally understood that being chosen once did not mean being chosen forever. Nora looked at the open hand holding hers and made that choice again, one step at a time. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts, like, share, subscribe, enable notifications, and join us for more unforgettable alpha romance stories ahead.